So you may have heard that Spitfire Audio just released a brand new sample library called Aperture. What you may not have heard is that there's a free version available of Aperture. So I have good news and bad news about the free version. The good news is it's absolutely free for as long as you want. You can keep it forever. The bad news is that there's only one sound in the demo. That's right, one sound in the demo. So if you saw my thumbnail, emphasis on the word sound, because there's only one sound. But the good news is it's a really cool sound, ran through 56 amps at Air Lyndhurst Hall. And so whenever I get something new, I like to compose a piece of music with my new toy and see if it's something that is going to be useful to me in the future. So I've downloaded the free version of Aperture and I've created a composition using that. But also, since it only has one sound, I also downloaded Spitfire Labs LA Atmos, which is the new free labs that you can get from Spitfire. So I took LA Atmos and the new Aperture from Spitfire, and I used them to write a short composition. So I want to play this for you, and then I'm going to go through some of the sounds I used individually, and I'll also show you some of the effects I've used on this piece. And this is just a short version of the full-length version that I'm going to release. So here's the session, and if you look in the comments to the left-hand side, you'll see the names of each preset that I used. So I'll go ahead and play this through. It's about a little over a minute long, and then I'll show you some of the individual sounds and also some of the EQ compression and effects I used to get this sound. So I started this piece with a sound from LA Atmos, which I'm really enjoying, by the way. And this is what I started the piece with. So let me go ahead and play you that soloed so you can hear that by itself. It's called Electric Car inside of LA Atmos. So yeah, really cool sound. Of course, you can change the sound. I'm not going to right now, but you can change the sound by moving this dynamic fader. And it really sounds like a blend of two sounds. And so as you change this fader, you kind of get more of one sound than the other. And then somewhere in the middle is kind of like both of them together. And as always, if you press this button in the middle, you've got some other things that you can use. Reverb, attacks, decay, sustain, and release. And the reverbs for this particular one, you have 5 choices. You have spring, stretched, evolution, plate, and toasty. So moving on, let me show you, there's a percussion patch inside of LA Atmos, and I found it really useful. And so this is the one right here, LA Atmos percussion. And let me play that for you just soloed. I had fun with that. Now what I did was I separated this out into 3 separate tracks. So I've got like a kick sound, a snare sound, and a hi-hat sound. And I wanted to put them on separate tracks so that I could process them differently with different EQ, different compression, and different effects. But let me play that for you, and then I'll show you some of the effects I used. So let me solo those. So on the kick track, I'm using Waves R-Bass. Now this is an awesome plugin if you don't have it. You can use it on kicks, kick drums, or bass synths, bass guitar, and it gives you like a sub-harmonic frequency that you can set the frequency to right here. You can change this frequency slider. I had it on 55. And it really did the trick for this kick drum. Let me play it again. I'll play it without and then I'll pop it in. So let me just loop that little kick drum here. I'll show you what it sounds like with and without. Okay, so here's without. And here's with. So you can hear that it gave it that sub-low power. And so, yeah, you heard the raw lab sound, and I just knew that I needed some more power there down in the low end. And then I also used the FabFilter Pro Q 2. You can see I added a ton of treble to that kick drum to try to get it to poke through in the treble frequencies. And so this is a pretty common EQ curve for a kick drum, except for, probably wouldn't normally add this much treble, but I didn't have a lot to work with in that, so I had to crank it up to start to hear some of the snap of that kick drum. So moving over to the snare, this is the snare sound, so let me play that soloed, and then I'll show you what I did to that. So obviously it's not a snare sound, but it's what I use for the snare sound. And so I ran this through Slate Digital's VMR rack. The virtual channel just gives you the harmonic saturation of what it would sound like to go through a console channel. So I have it set to USA, which is an API setting. And then in the EQ, not doing a ton. I'm doing a little bit of bass roll off at 111, and then I'm boosting at 200, a couple dB. But the main thing that's really shaping the sound is this here, the FG Stress, which is an emulation of the Distressor. And I'll show you that with and without. So here's without. Here's with. So obviously it's a lot louder. It's adding a lot of gain, but it's also adding a lot of smack. And so it really helped that snare cut through. And then lastly, I have this hi-hat sound. Again, these are not real drum sounds, but just what they sound similar to is similar to a hi-hat. Here's what it sounds like. And again, these are all sounds right inside of LA Atmos. And but on this particular sound, actually, the game changer here was this plugin, which is a free plugin. If you don't have this, this is an awesome free plugin that you can just download, Valhalla Freak Echo. And let me show you with and without. So first without. Now with. So you can see I have it set to a dotted 16th note. And the thing that makes this plugin really cool is this knob right here called Shift. It's actually shifting the frequency of the delay. And so you can get some really fun things by using this shift knob. So moving on, let me show you the Aperture. And this right here is the free version of Aperture. And it is a really cool sound, even though you only get one sound. It's by a synth from Analog Solutions, and it's a huge modular synth that they call Dave. And so let me play Dave for you. Now let me play it again and I'll sweep this, the Dynamics fader. Now what I think is happening, you'll see the aperture eye open and close, which is kind of cool right here. But what I think is happening is when you go all the way to the bottom here, and then when you sweep up to the top, you're opening up the aperture. And I actually have 3 tracks. So let me just solo the main track so you can hear what it's doing. Okay, so I'll start with the aperture all the way closed, and then I will open it up so you can hear what happens. So yeah, as you turn the aperture up, as you turn the dynamic fader up, I should say, you start to hear the sound of all those 56 amps recorded in Air Lyndhurst Hall, and sounds pretty cool. So down here at the bottom, 0%, it just sounds like the synth almost direct in, and then as you turn it up, you get that big, huge room sound of those 56 amps. You can see in the background of this plugin all the amps stacked up on the risers and stuff that they had. So there was another sound in LA Atmos that I wanted to show you that I really enjoyed. It's called Siren, and let me play that for you. Now, if you hear really faintly in the background, you hear like a siren going off, which I think is cool. So I enjoy that sound. If you've ever owned a Nord lead, it reminds me a lot of some of the sounds that you could get with a Nord lead. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, if you got some value out of it, would you give this video a like and turn on the bell for notifications, because that lets you know when my new videos are coming out, and I've got lots of great content coming very soon. Also, if you click right here, you can hear the full version of the song that I composed using these instruments. So I hope you enjoyed this video today, and we'll see you in the next one.